So I have a topic, but not a talk. So we'll see. I'm not sure where it's going to go. But the topic is one that I'm thinking about today. And I think it's a very important topic for being a human being. And it's the topic of empathy. And the human capacity for empathy is a beautiful thing. And so, in thinking about empathy a little bit, or considering it, I looked up empathy to learn what that great world authority, Wikipedia, had to say about it. And one of the surprises in looking at the Wikipedia entry was the person who wrote it clearly was saying that empathy is the concept of empathy, and the word is a relatively recently coined word and concept. And people in the last decades have been trying to come up with a definition for it. And there's different definitions. There's not an agreed upon definition. This is what empathy is. But all the meanings have to do with somehow understanding other people, understanding other people's feelings in some way or other. Some people emphasize that it's kind of feeling the feelings of others, but not in a contagious way, not where you kind of take it on as your own, but you feel it as clearly it's their feelings, not my feelings, but you kind of sense and feel. Some people point out that empathy means understanding the perspective of someone else, their life situation, their frame of reference. So kind of you put yourself in their shoes, and you see their life through their life experiences and what went on for them. And so that's a little more, more having to do with cognition rather than feeling. It's understanding a bigger picture of their life and what it's like having gone through a life like that, how it is for them. And sometimes some people point to the role of mirror neurons, their ability to pick up and sense inside us the facial expressions and the gestures of people, and kind of something inside of us kind of feels the expressions that come through other people's gestures. And other people in empathy talk about the role of imagination, that we use our imagination to imagine ourselves in their shoes, and there we understand a little bit kind of their situation, how it is for them. So perhaps for different people, empathy is different. And empathy overlaps with compassion, and also maybe for different people what compassion is, how compassion gets stimulated in them, evoked in them, and how they feel it and act on it is different for different people. But I think that whether it's empathy or whether it's compassion, it's one of the really beautiful things that can happen through meditation practice, through Buddhist practice, is that our capacity for empathy, our capacity for compassion grows and develops. And one of the reasons it does that is because the obstacles to it fall away. It's as if empathy or compassion are innate capacities we have that mostly will operate on their own if we get out of the way. And so when we sit, and some like here, sit and meditate, then our distractions, our distractibility, our fears and anxieties, our inhibitions, our angers, our frustrations, all the interpretations we have when we overlay on top of our experience, all that begins to quiet down and settle away. And so the field is clearer, and so we're much more likely to either feel more fully, to see more clearly, to think maybe in a more effective way. For the imagination can work in ways that are much more immediate and valuable. I mean, I could be sitting here thinking about. I can have a meeting with someone, talking with someone, and I could spend my time imagining how wonderful it would be to have a red sports car. That's one use of my imagination. Or I could be meeting with someone, And somehow my imagination is evoked by the person, and kind of imagining it, telling me their story and what goes on, and kind of imagining what that's like. Maybe my imagination is not completely accurate, but still, my imagination is engaged with their story, what goes on for them, and their background, and history, and what it must have been like to grow up that way or be that way. And then, so one imagination takes me away from them, and the other imagination brings me hopefully towards them. And so the empathy is there, more likely. And so what I've found is that my capacity for empathy, and related to empathy is compassion, has grown with practice. And it's one of the beautiful things in my life, is to feel a greater sense of empathy and compassion, a connectedness to people. And in turn, as the empathy grew, it seemed that also fueled my practice. Then it became a source of encouragement or motivation to practice further, because I wasn't practicing just for myself, but now I'm also practicing to support other people, to be a better person in the world, to be helpful to other people. And that sense of this kind of mutual interplay of, practice supporting the growth of empathy, and empathy supporting the growth of practice, I feel has gone back and forth in my life in very important ways. So when you meditate, when you do your practice, so say, for example, when you meditate, and you come out of your meditation to start your day or go into the world, it might be interesting for you to look, to see, or to be open to feeling, sensing, seeing, being present, imagining the people that you encounter as you leave. That you don't use your practice as some way to kind of be self-contained, self-absorbed, holding on to how you feel, as a way of that shields you from really taking in someone else. But you really kind of come out of your meditation willing and able, and maybe in a quiet way, to feel and sense and be connected to others. And then see what happens. See what gets touched. And imagine a variety of different things will be touched depending on the person that you encounter. And then look at how does empathy play out in your life? Is it mostly body-based? Does something resonate in your body in relationship to them? Is it feeling-based? Do you kind of pick up and feel, or emotions get elicited in you in response to someone else, where maybe you feel similar things to them? Or is it imagination? Is it thoughts and perspective? You understand it from their point of view. Are you interested in understanding it in other people's point of view? The feeling part, feeling other people's feelings, or having a resonance in your body with what's going on with them, maybe there's not much we can do about that. It either happens or doesn't happen if we're open for it. But to use our imagination and our thinking, that's something we have some choice over. So if you find yourself in a difficult situation with other people, difficult interpersonal situation, from what perspective do you look at the difficulty? And one of the perspectives to bring into this situation is, what is it like for that person? How is it for them to be in this conflict? How is it for them to be struggling? What's going on for them in their life that they're so angry? Let me take a moment here and try to understand the background of their situation. They're afraid. What's going on? What happened in their life that they're so afraid? What happens if you and that's a choice, to take time to think and reflect, what's perspective, what's the bigger picture that this person is operating under? As opposed to maintaining only the perspective of, this person's had an impact on me, and this is the impact it's had on me, and this person better understand my perspective and my history and what happened to me in my life, and I'm going to tell them. So this whole thing about compassion and empathy, there's just two different sides of it. There's that side that gets evoked or gets awakened in us, that we're available, there's less filters between us and the world, and something can happen in a more kind of intuitive or direct way. And then there's a side that is not automatic or natural necessarily, but has to do with we choose to engage that part of us that allows for a fuller, deeper understanding, allows for further empathy to occur. And a lot of that some of that has to do with imagination, some of it has to do with a shift of perspective, realizing there are different perspectives in any given situation. And so to be willing to look from different perspectives and stretch and put aside your perspective for a little while and look at it from another one and another one, another one, and get a fuller picture. And in the end, I think my approach or my hope, my wish in any situation is to look for what is best for everyone concerned. What's best for everyone? Not what's best for me, what's best for that person, but what's best for, can we find a place, what's best, what's most beautiful, most helpful, most brings the greatest sense of well-being to everyone concerned. And I think that empathy, in any of its many forms, is one of the great supports for helping us find what's best for everyone. So, thank you.